Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle Me in my series Freemasonry and Satanism, a continuation of the Bible, the Gospel of St. Luke, 72 part 3. So instead of doing long videos, I'm making shorter videos. So I guess it'll be part 3A and part 3B, part 3C, I don't know. I just go with my intuitive, instinctive brain. Kind of leads me along. And watching what's going on in the world right now is bizarre. If you haven't seen it, go look up David Bowie's video, Black Star. If you don't think it's satanic, then you don't understand Satanism. So it's like Halloween stuff. Demons, goblins, and all that scary stuff. And it's mentioned in the Bible. And I know a lot of people out there in public think the Bible is just a joke. So with that said, let me look at a couple pictures here before I start reading, of things that I think that are relevant. The big lie. Gay marriage. So this is by Daniel Payne, and I'm coming up with a new technique on how to do referencing other issues, websites, press releases. I just take a picture with my camera and do a little synopsis. So this, the name of this press release or website article, Elton John inflates the big gay marriage lie. Elton John and David Furnish allegedly, get this, and we're all talking about love here. That's the big debate right now after the Orlando, Florida shootings. You can't stop love. It's propaganda, it's deception, and I'm going to prove it, in my opinion. But allegedly, Elton John and David Furnish allegedly have sex with numerous other partners, yet they insist their kids would be harmed by seeing this reality in print. Ha! So they're having sex with other partners, like if you've seen that Tel Aviv, Israel recent gay celebration. In my opinion, it was grotesque. Perversion to the limit. Anyways, this article here says, the big lie of gay marriage was always this: it will affect nobody outside of the gays who wish to partake in it. They're forcing it on us visibly, as we're all seeing, with even cartoons and TV programming and those gay parades. And now, possibly, I'm just thinking, the, again, artificially created situation, whether mind control or whatever else, of creating that big scene to kill all those people. And now everything's in the news every day that you can't stop love. When will people get ready for change? And so on. And they're doing that with the gun issue. And they're doing that with the climate change issue. So all these issues, campaigns to bring about a change over society in general, to believe the big lie, as it says here. So this is clearly false, that nobody will be affected by this. Outsiders won't be affected by this gay propaganda coming out of the United Nations, part of the New Age and the New World Order. So obviously it is going to affect the rest of us. For example, it is clearly false that we all will not be harmed, as any number of bakers who refuse to bake cakes for the gay marriages, or photographers who refuse to want to go to a gay wedding and take pictures with a heartfelt sense of duty. They felt appalled by it. As in, if you watched at Tel Aviv and other gay celebration parades, it's grotesque. Look how they dress and what they're doing. Their signs. So these photographers and bakers will tell you that having gone through the legal ringer of forced gay wedding compliance. Yet sometimes the big lie gets even bigger. Sometimes it threatens more than the livelihoods of cake bakers in north central Colorado. Sometimes it threatens free speech. That seems to be the situation out of England regarding a case in which a celebrity gay couple had placed an injunction on the British press to cover up reports of extramarital encounters. According to Paddy Manning, a gay Irish columnist notable for his opposition to gay marriage, the couple is none other than Elton John and David Furnish. So they're trying to get the newspaper, through an injunction, through the court system, to suppress their extramarital affairs. Well, guess you can't have your cake and eat it too. Tesla. Let's talk about Nikola Tesla, the inventor, per se, of electricity, the way we all live today, the wireless cell phones, everything else. And I went back and saw a couple of videos of his. Please go look at this video. That he clearly indicates that there are these interdimensional beings, angels or what have you. And he said this, and I've said it many times, that he tried to tell the public this, and his handlers, Morgan, Edison, whoever, would come pull him off the stage. They wanted to shut him up. They didn't want him to tell you or me the reality. And it's gonna, when we read the Bible here, you're gonna see where that fits in. And here we got another guy, looks like a happy guy, and they're probably promoting him in the New York Post. A professor who donates sperm in city bathrooms, and he has sired 22 kids. I wonder if he has to pay for the welfare for these kids. On a busy night last week at the Target store on the Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, Ari Nagel, 40, emerged from the men's bathroom looking a little flushed and quite pleased with himself. "It's better when it's fresh," he told them. "It's Mr. Nagel's semen, and it's in demand." So this guy's helping, let's say, lesbians. I read the whole article. Have a baby. He might even have sex with one of the lesbians in bed, while the other lesbian is in bed holding the other lesbian's hand, because it's such a scary thing to have some man poking you. You can't make this stuff up. You don't know what to believe, what's real anymore. But the propaganda just doesn't cease, as we're all aware of the sustainability and biodiversity and global warming and everything else. Fear, fear, fear. So 1/3 of the barrier reef coral is dying. Scientists said mass bleaching caused by global warming, here you go, is killing 35% of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. So they want you to feel like driving your car is killing the Great Barrier Reef down there by Australia. Are you buying that? And I'm looking up here. I just posted this last video on the Sky Spring. They're dumping tons of chemicals in the sky. So what are we to believe? All those tons of chemicals aren't doing anything? Might be bleaching the coral reef. Alright, another thing when I was looking at a video, wearechange.org. This is important stuff. Very important. Insane stuff. Especially since they want to crash the financial system or the dollar or something to bring about martial law. The government's purchased 450 million hollow point bullets, built FEMA camps, 30,000 guillotines, putting drones around the country, and arming police and sheriff's offices all over the country like they're military people. And there's legislation being passed, and all this stuff I have documentation. I will be showing it in the future over and over and over and over. So if somebody doesn't believe and they want to watch 10 of my videos, 100 of my videos, or 200 of my videos, if they just don't want to believe, there's not a darn thing I can do. But anyways, world's largest arm exporter. So the United States is supposed to be the peacekeeper of the world. Well, according to this picture I took, world's largest arm exporters, the United States is over 50%. Of the arms industry. Now, let's be honest, who controls the United States? Ariel Sharon of Israel, in a heated argument in the Israeli Parliament, Congress, whatever they have over there, exclaimed when they said we can't do this because the USA will interfere. He exclaimed, don't worry about the USA, we control the USA. Now I believe Ariel Sharon, Prime Minister for Israel, in a heated argument. You ever been in a heated argument and then you blurt out the truth? How many people blurt out a lie in a heated argument? They confess, they tell the truth. Especially when you're among your comrades and you're not paying attention. Just like Benjamin Netanyahu in Fink's Bar. Please look it up. Don't believe me. And he says, we hate America and we're going to destroy America. Please go look up what he said, and there's much worse than that. And then we got another one I talked about in the last video that I think is important. Stephen Moore, climate change, one of the greatest propaganda campaigns in the world's history, very Stalinistic. But we all know that. They're bringing about this change. And I talked about it in the last video. I'm going to talk about it again. I'm going to get some pictures. I'm going to get this out there. They just had a grand opening for a tunnel under the Swiss Alps, the mountain. And if you go watch the videos, grotesque again, completely bizarre, demons with horns. You can't mistake it. You can't. Men in orange workman's outfit marching like zombies. It's just the most bizarre people dressed up in skimpy little tight underwear only and humping each other and doing all kinds of bizarre things on stage for all the dignitaries of the world who were invited to attend the opening of that tunnel. Interestingly enough, it shows a great big gigantic movie theater screen in the back with all these eyes blinking. Big screen full of a bunch of eyes. And incoming, apparently, a comet or Planet X or Herculaneum. But apparently it shows an opening of a portal. So I suspect it's all in reference to also in CERN for the Hadron Collider, where they're even saying they're trying to open up a portal with the demonic statue of Shiva out front, 666 in the logo. You don't have to go very far to find out that this is all very weird. So let me read from some of this book here. The Bible. The Gospel according to St. Luke.
I guess it was at one of the two entrances. Anyway, there you
Look at that thing in the background on the opening ceremony for the tunnel. And look at the horns on that being.
She joins us now watching the
This is a satanic ritual for the opening of the Swiss tunnel
a very enjoyable spectacle.
under the Alps.
I presume some people that have taken part in the project as well. Shows just how immensely proud the Swiss are of this tunnel for so many reasons.
The lamb. The goat's head. Totally satanic. Any way you look at it. The eye. Insanity.
When you celebrate science, perhaps it's best to not get carried away. The inauguration ceremony included some, how should we put it, original choreography.
It's quite bizarre.
Aidalami, do you associate this kind of dancing with the inauguration of a tunnel?
I don't understand
leaving
art
you
enough.
speechless.
It leaves me speechless.
I get claustrophobic just thinking about that tunnel.
All right. We're going
Me
to leave.
too.
Where was that? That was in the tunnel?
I guess it was at
Thin.
one of the two entrances. Anyway, there you
The opening ceremony. Look at the eyes on that spinning thing. Is this not creepy? Look at the devil thing there, the horns.
Joins us now watching.
Look at this being.
Saying there, Imogen, this very enjoyable spectacle with dancers. And
It's a tunnel under the Swiss Alps.
Well, shows just how immensely proud the Swiss are of this tunnel for so many reasons.
Can anybody say this is not satanic? Borderlining on insanity. Look, that's witchcraft there. There's an eye. Insane. If people do not think this is unusual, bizarre, the devil himself. It's like a ceremony for an entrance into Hades. I'm just trying to make a point here. Not trying to read the whole Bible or be religious. I consider myself a scientist, a psychic researcher, and a citizen of the United States, wanting to know what's wrong or what's going on with our governments. So we're going to start out at chapter 2, and I could read all of the thing, but I'm only reading my highlighted portions, things that kind of point out what I'm trying to get across. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. I suppose that would be Jesus. There was no room for them in the inn. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord, an angel, this is going to be important, came upon them, and glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. So an angel shows up, which I suppose in today's language could be a spirit or a ghost or something, and it would probably scare people. Yes? And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings and great joy, which shall be to all people. It says all people here. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is born Christ the Lord. I'm only reading my highlighted portions. And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, Let us now go even into Bethlehem, and see this thing which is come to pass, which the Lord hath made us known unto us. And when 8 days, and again I'm skipping a lot here, you can go read St. Luke chapter 2, were accomplished for the circumcising of the child. So back then they were circumcising children, and apparently Jesus was circumcised. His name was called Jesus, which was so named of the angel before he was conceived in the womb. And to offer a sacrifice according to that which is said in the law of the Lord, a pair of turtle doves and 2 young pigeons, sacrifice. And behold, there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simon, and the same man was just and devout, waiting for the consolation of Israel, and the Holy Ghost came upon him. So repeatedly we're hearing about these people who are devout, righteous people, and some Holy Ghost spirit is coming upon them, I suppose possessing them and making them slightly more conscious about reality. And it was revealed unto him by the Holy Ghost that he should not see death before he had seen the Lord's Christ. So the Holy Ghost came upon Simon and said, you will not see death until you've seen the Lord's Christ. Okay. And he came by the Spirit into the temple. And when the parents brought in the child Jesus to do for him after the custom of the law, then he took up his arms and blessed God and said, Lord, now lettest thou thy servant depart in peace, according to thy word. For my eyes have seen thy salvation, which thou hast prepared before the face of all people. It says all people here. A light to lighten the Gentiles, and the glory of thy people Israel. So it's for the Gentiles, everybody that's not Jewish, and the good Jewish people, apparently not the ones who have turned over to the dark side, Satanism. We'll get into that again, and again, and again. And she was a widow of about 80 and 4 years, which departed not from the temple, but served God with fastings and prayer night and day. Moving on, and the child grew and waxed strong in spirit, that would be Jesus, filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was upon him. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. And when they had fulfilled the days, as they returned, the child Jesus tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it. So I suppose as a group of people, they went to Jerusalem for the feast. And when they left, they assumed that the child was with the group, but he wasn't. And so they kind of had to go look for him, moving on. And it came to pass that after 3 days, they found him in the temple. So they had to go looking for him for 3 days, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. So Jesus was astonishing this child, the priest at the temple. And when they saw him, they were amazed. That would be his parents. And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou thus dealt with us? Behold thy father, and I sought thee sorrowing. So they were upset. And Jesus said, and he said unto them, How is it that ye sought me? Whilst ye not that I must be about my Father's business? So the young child, Jesus, realized even back then while he was talking to the priest on the temple steps that he was about God's business. And they understood not the saying which he spake unto them. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth, and was the subject unto them. But his mother kept all these sayings in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature, and in favor with God and man. So I'm going to stop there on the Bible and get into a couple other tidbits of material that should be interesting. You know, that Bible I have is the King James Version. So I thought it might behoove me to just look into that a little bit. So I went on Wikipedia. Now I'm aware the King and Queen of England had, apparently these days, according to David Icke and others, might be reptilian DNA humans. The Queen of England apparently owns a good portion of the world's property. And a lot of other things have been exposed about them. So I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. King James of England, who gave him the, how logical is this, that he would be authorizing a Bible for the rest of us to believe, when even the Declaration of Independence, the United States had to have a war with England to be free. Then probably in 1881, apparently, behind the scenes, the United States lost its freedom and is now a corporation. So they say. We'll get into that. I got documents. That's not the point right here. So there seems to be a lot of corruption coming out of the kings and queens of England and the other countries. The elites into occultism and deceiving, responsible for the sky spraying and the HARP transmitters, the microwave transmitters, and horrific wars over and over again. They're preparing for World War III, it seems. So why would I want to believe that this Bible, authorized by King James of England? So I looked into it here. I got a Wikipedia. Just a few tidbits of knowledge. So first of all, I'd like to get into the point of the year. The King James Version, also known as the Authorized Version, is an English translation of the Christian Bible for the Church of England, begun in 1604. And according to my research, they weren't very good scholars at translating the Hebraic language and other languages. But yet again, they did, and I'm sure they tainted the Bible for their own personal benefit and to control the people. Just saying, is that plausible? And completed in 1611. So I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, 1604, 1611. What else was going on back then? So I'll take a break from that document and talk about part of my research, psychic research. Magicians, court magicians. And they got this one guy, John Dee. And again, it's 1608 to 1609. Whoa! The Authorized Version was done in 1604 to 1611. So it's about the same time that John Dee was alive. And advisor to the kings and queens. So if this magician is advising the kings and queens, and King James is authorizing the Bible, that seems a little suspicious to me. But what do I know? I just read books and research. So I did highlight some stuff. So I'm just going to do my highlighted portions, maybe getting my point across. So anyways, John Dee, July 1527 to 1608 or 1609, was an English mathematician, astronomer, astrologer, and occult philosopher. Imperialist and advisor to Queen Elizabeth, he devoted much of his life to the study of alchemy, divination, you know, like I do with my pendulum and stuff I've shown, which I'll go over that stuff again. So just so you don't think I'm a whacked out person, John Dee, advisor to the Queen, was into that. And Hermetic philosophy, Rosie Crucian, all this religion of the cosmos, Mystery School of Babylon, all kinds of names, witchcraft, Illuminati, Talmud information from the bad Jewish people's bad book, not to be confused with the good Jewish people who stick with the Torah. But the ones who are over towards the Kabbalah, the Zohar, and the Talmud, which even allows them to have sex with 3-year-old children. So let's get back to Dee straddled the worlds of science and magic, just as they were becoming distinguishable. So this is 1608, 1609, 1601. Simultaneously with these efforts, Dee immersed himself in the worlds of magic, astrology, and Hermetic philosophy. He devoted much time and effort in the last 30 years or so of his life to attempting, get this, to commune, get this, with angels. Didn't we just read about angels talking to Jesus' parents in the Bible? In order to learn the universal language of creation and bring about a pre-apocalyptic unity of mankind. Unity of mankind. So I'm thinking about the New Age and New World Order philosophy. Dee did not draw distinctions between his mathematical research and his investigations into Hermetic magic, angel summoning, and divination. Angel summoning, summoning angels to talk to them. Today, I think we're all being deceived and fooled. We can call them UFOs and aliens. Instead, he considered all of his activities to constitute different facets of the same quest, the search for a transcendent understanding of the divine forms which underlie the visible world, which Dee called pure varieties. So I'm reading this, and I don't think it's a copyright issue, from the Wikipedia, which says it's a free encyclopedia. So just so everybody knows, my future videos, I will be more aware of any effort on my part to do something that might infringe on somebody's copyright. There is a fair use law that you can use things to make points and examples and pictures and stuff. We want to do the right thing, and in all my videos that you've watched in the past, most of the time, and I try to do it all the time, I recommend go buying those books, and I say I'm not reading everything, but there just seem to be a lot of important information. But now I don't need those books because a lot of it's up here. After all those years, I'm a little bit more aware of what I'm talking about. Because when I started, I certainly wasn't. I didn't know about John Dee, the magician for the court, that authorized this version of the Bible. So, moving on here. His early life, he met Girolamo Cardino in London. During their acquaintance, they investigated a perpetual motion machine as well as a gem purported to have magical properties. So you got a rock, a gem, purported to have magical properties. That's interesting. Stuff he was into. That same year, 1555, Dee was arrested and charged with calculating for having cast horoscopes for Queen Mary and Princess Elizabeth. The charges were expanded to treason against Mary. Dee appeared in the Star Chamber and exonerated himself, but was turned over to the Catholic Bishop Bonner for religious examination. His strong and lifelong penchant for secrecy, perhaps worsening matters, this entire episode was only the most dramatic in a series of attacks and slanders that would dog Dee throughout his life. Clearing his name yet again, he soon became a close associate of Bonner. That would be the bishop. Alright, moving on. When Elizabeth took the throne in 1558, Dee became her trusted advisor in astrological and scientific matters, choosing Elizabeth's coronation date himself. So he was responsible for the ideological backing of the creation of the British Empire. So apparently, again, the King James of Britain authorizes this version of the Bible that apparently I'm supposed to believe in. And they are wanting the creation of a British Empire. So it just makes something a little suspect. I'm a Christian, without a doubt. But I think some of the people, like the Vatican, and these kings and queens, and the Zionists, and the Illuminati, and the Freemasons, and the Rosicrucian, and the witchcraft, and the gay agenda, truck noise, biodiversity, sustainability, global warming. I think there's all one big effort to bring about a return of the golden age for them. And the workers and the people, the ones they don't kill when they depopulate, become slaves to these masters who want to take over. See, the United States Constitution makes the people the masters, and we elect our politicians. Or so we think. They've taken over the system, and they give us puppet number 1 or puppet number 2. Donald Trump, go look up his mansion in New York. It's all Freemasonic, Masonic, occultic. And Hillary is reported to have been involved in these same things. In my past videos, I've talked about it. What's his name? Larry... Sometimes the brain stops. Larry Nichols on many shows. Alex Jones, Lisa Haven, and many others. Just look up Larry Nichols. And he was the handler for the Clintons, and he tells all. And apparently, according to him, and some other symbols you see by these people, she was taking off to Vegas and involved in witchcraft. And there's many more accusations about the Clintons. A lot of you wouldn't want to work for them. A lot of people who worked for them are now dead, mysteriously. So I'm not Republican or Democrat. I think they're both puppet number 1 and puppet number 2. Controlled by these people we're talking about, evil forces. Who want to have an advantage over the rest of us and lie, cheat, and steal, and bring about a decadent, perverted society. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So it says here, Mr. D, the magician, to the same court that apparently authorized this King James version of the Bible I'm reading from, just thought it would be interesting to look into this. He claimed to have occult knowledge of treasure in the Welsh marshes, and a valuable ancient manuscript kept at Wigmore Castle, knowing that the Lord's treasurer's ancestors came from this area. So he was a collector of ancient manuscripts and books and maps and stuff, which I'm sure would be interesting back there in the 1500s and 1600s. In 1564, Dee wrote the Hermetic work Monas Hieroglyphia, an exhaustive, get this, Kabbalistic, there we go with the Kabbalah, interpretation of a glyph of his own design and meant to express the mythical unity of all creation. Well, I'll show it to you. I've talked about this before. I'm going to talk about it again. But apparently, that's some kind of magic symbol. Sounds like the Mystery School of Babylon, Helena Blavatsky's Theosophist Society, Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. And he says here, it's meant to express the mystical unity of all creation. Moving on down here about this John Dee, the magician, witchcraft type of guy for the King and Queen of England. Anyways, Mr. D in the 1580s, and by the way, here's a seal of God in the British Museum. Seal of God. So you can go look up this article, or this thing on Wikipedia. Because that seal of God is a six-pointed star with a triangle in the middle. And what is the flag for Israel? Six-pointed star. So they were certainly into this occult stuff, witchcraft. Anyways, in the 1580s, he began a more energetic turn towards the supernatural as a means of acquiring knowledge. Specifically, he sought to contact spirits through the use of a scryer or crystal gazer. He was reading a crystal ball, which would act as an intermediary between Dee and the angels. Dee's first attempts with several scryers was not satisfactory. So there's more here to read, a lot more about all this stuff. I'll just jump way ahead here. Apparently he met this guy named Kelly, who was really good at communing with the angels. Special angelic communicate. Just like, you know, when you go see a psychic, some people are just more psychic than others. But what was interesting here, in 1887, during a spiritual conference in Bohemia, Kelly informed Dee that the angel Uriel had ordered the men to share all their possessions, including their wives. That's what I wanted to point out here. So this sex thing goes way back, like Rabbi Marvin Antelman in his two books, Volume 1, Volume 2, to eliminate the opate, and opate means believe in God. They don't want you praying, but they're doing these satanic rituals to these angels. So I suspect, as I've said before, in the Bible, where it says a third of the angels were kicked out of heaven for revolutionary or revolting against God's law. So my question is, where were they sent to? Obviously, it's not the place where they came from. And of course, we in the material plane are here. So to me, there's at least two other realms that seem to be acknowledged in all this stuff I'm reading. Apparently, there's many more dimensions or realms, however you want to call it. So when they're incommunicado with these angels, I suspect it's not God's angels and Jesus's. It's the demonic ones. So I'll read that again. In 1587, during a spiritual conference in Bohemia. That's interesting because we've gone over in the past, and I'll go over again, the Bohemian Grove in California, where a lot of our politicians have been photographed. Where they have a gigantic owl Moloch demon and a fire in the belly way below at night. And all of our politicians, many of them, and CEOs of large corporations, and many other elitists, of course, into this satanic Luciferic religion, Mystery School of Babylon, or the religion of the cosmos. But anyways, they have a big fire, and they throw a baby in the fire, and they call it the cremation of care. And if you go look up Alex Jones and the Bohemian Grove, you will see the videos of this screeching and hollering. And the men dress up in long robes and ship in gay men, no women allowed, for some kind of satanic sexual orgy. And then go look over there at the Swiss Alps, the grand opening for the tunnel under the Swiss Alps. And a gigantic sexual orgy seems to be going on the float as part of the satanic celebration or presentation. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Watch the whole thing. It's just completely bizarre. So the angel Uriel had ordered the men to share all their possessions, including their wives. But apparently, to his credit, Dee wasn't happy with this. By this time, Kelly had gained some renown as an alchemist, and in fact was more sought after than Dee in this regard. This was a line of work that he had prospects for serious and long-term financial gain. So if you're into the occult, communicating with the spirits and doing this stuff, apparently the benefits are, as it says here on page 4 of the Wikipedia John Dee document, that it had serious and long-term financial gain. especially among the royal families of Central Europe. Well, this is an aha moment. They're all into the occult for financial gain and, of course, the perverted sex things they do with people and power and control and murder. And apparently the angels, the demons they're in communicato with, obviously are not abiding by God's commandments, because commandment number 7 that God gave to Moses, the 10 Commandments, says, do not commit adultery. And here's an angel telling these two occultists to share wives. And the royal families and all this, as it says here, were serious and long-term financial gain, especially among the royal families. Apparently, the royal family, King James, is authorizing this Bible I'm reading. So what am I to believe? What are you to believe? Dee, on the other hand, was more interested in communicating with the angels, who he believed would help solve the mysteries of the heavens through mathematics, optics, astrology, science, and navigation. It may be that Kelly, in fact, wished to end Dee's dependence on him as a scryer, reading the crystal ball, and for their increasingly lengthy and frequent spiritual conferences. The order for the wife-sharing caused Dee great anguish, but he apparently did not doubt its genuineness. They apparently did share wives. Anyways, please go look this up. There's more here I read, as you can see on the next page. So we're getting a little closer here. We'll go back to the first document I started with, the King James Version of the Bible. In January 1604, James I convened the Hampton Court Conference. So at the same time, there have these spiritual conferences. James, the King of England, was having a conference. And those were the things where they were negotiating what was in this Bible that I'm reading from. That's concerning to me. People will say the Bible is the law. They've been deceiving us. I believe there is the word from God is true. And I know there's 1,000 versions of the Bible. I don't know. Translations done by humans. They all can't be correct because they're different. I've found things I've read in this Bible so far that appears to contradict each other, which I will point out. But notwithstanding the fact, number one, I believe in God. I believe Jesus did come. I believe in the 10 Commandments. So I guess it's just now for me to get a firm handle on what else I'm supposed to understand and believe. Hence I make these videos. But I consider myself, like I've said all along, a researcher into the question of what the heck is going on in the world. Why are they trying to bring about some gigantic event, catastrophe, World War III, whatever, martial law, FEMA camps, hollow point bullets. And they're already mandating that by the end of June 2016, everybody's debit credit card has a microchip. I suspect people will start stealing those cards, and then they'll say they got to put the chip in your head or in your arm for security purposes. They have a plan. Anyways, the translation was done by 47 scholars, all of whom were members of the Church of England. So the Church of England was kind of in competition with the Vatican over in Italy. So they hashed out a Bible that they could authorize. So they were saying things in there that was obviously to control the people mostly. For their benefit, as we're learning here. We're communicating with angels or telling them to share wives. And much more stuff. So by the first half of the 18th century, the authorized version had become effectively unchallenged as the English translation used in Anglican and English Protestant churches. So that really, it's kind of disturbing to be a researcher and having somebody like sink your boat where you think you know what you're talking about and you find out you don't. John 3-16, For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. So it says here in John 3:16, according to this thing on King James Version of the Bible, quite clear that if you believe in him, you shall not perish. So I believe that's true. But then there are other things in there just saying that, you know, if you don't do this or you don't do that, God's not going to... It says in one place in the Bible I'm going to read that God doesn't listen to sinners. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. We're all sinners, except for Jesus. And when the Rabbi Marvin Antelman wrote the book To Eliminate the Opate, these people into the occult, don't want us to pray because they know our prayers are heard. God listens. Without trying to be a religious teacher here, I'm more of a scientist in my opinion. All right, now on to another subject. I watch videos, and I learn things, and I try to go verify, and then I share. Fair enough? So apparently one video I was watching talked about, I think it might have been on Lisa Havens or somebody, but they were exposing something about the government that I think we all ought to wrap our heads around. I've mentioned it before and want to mention it again. But apparently, the Journal of Scientific Exploration, Volume 10, Number 1, page 63 to 76, 1996. So the Society for Scientific Exploration is probably a very well-recognized institution. Anyways, apparently with the Freedom of Information Act and declassifying secret documents, this document came out. The CIA initiated remote viewing program at Stanford Research Institute. CIA initiated remote viewing program. You know what remote viewing is? The government has trained people who sit in chairs like maybe a barber chair or a chair like in an airplane for the pilot. And they go into a trance and they leave their body and they go spy on other countries or people or corporations. They're into remote viewing. So we're reading about ghosts and spirits and John D. and the Bible and the Holy Ghost going to see Mary and all this. So if you believe the Bible and all that and all this, it's all believable that apparently there is this other dimension, which is my whole point. So apparently there are evil forces out there that can be communicated with using yoga and meditation and techniques for the Rosicrucians, and part of the stuff for the Freemasons, the religion of the cosmos, mystery school of Babylon, gateway to the gods, that's what Babylon means. So here's another thing, we're in reality, in this world we live in, the government is into, I'll read this, an abstract. The Institute for Advanced Studies in Austin, 4030 Baker Lane West, Street 300, Austin, Texas. Abstract. In July 1995, the CIA declassified and approved for release documents revealing its sponsorship in the 1970s of a program at Stanford Research Institute in Menlo Park, California, to determine whether such phenomenon as remote viewing might have utility for intelligence collection, thus beginning disclosure to the public of a 2-decade-plus involvement in the intelligence communities in the investigation of the so-called parapsychological PSI phenomenon. Now, we all know they're preparing for a new world order with FEMA camps, hollow point bullets, and much more. Legislation. And I'm only wondering, during their parapsychological or PSI remote viewing, which apparently you can remote view into the future and into the past, did they see that the people wake up and revolt against their tyrannic rule over us? And is that what they're preparing for? Just a theological question. On April 17, 1995, President Clinton issued Executive Order number 1995-4-17 entitled the Classified National Security Information, In recent years, however, dramatic changes have altered, although not eliminated, the national security threats that we confront. In some exceptional cases, however, the need to protect such information may be outweighed by the public's interest in disclosure of the information, and in these cases, the information should be declassified. So the government is announcing here, this guy here, I've got his books, H.E. Puthoff. Where my finger is. Can't see the screen, so I hope you got it. P-U-T-H-O-F-F-H-E, Herald. Of its 2-decade involvement in funding high-classified special access programs and remote viewing and related PSI phenomenon, first at Stanford Research Institute, SRI, then at Science Applications International Corporations, SAIC, both in Menlo Park, California, supplemented by various in-house government programs. So apparently, just to make the story short here, there was this artist, Ingo Swann, you can look it up, I-N-G-O-S-W-A-N-N. I've got several books concerning remote viewing, and we'll be looking at those in future videos. Anyways, he was in a lab with a friend of his, and the friend had some lie detector equipment hooked up to some plants, and he wanted to see if the plants had any kind of reaction to things, if they were alive. Well, apparently, when Ingo took a lighter lit close to the plant like he was going to burn the plant, the meter started pegging. The plant was actually screaming because you couldn't hear it. It was just the electrical needle on the lie detector. And when he pulled the lighter back, the thing settled down. So the instructor said, okay, don't use a lighter. Think you're going to burn the plant. And he thought he was going to burn it, and the thoughts alone caused the thing to start pegging again with the plant, thinking it was going to get burned. And he kept doing it, and after 6 or 7 or 8 times, the plant realized he was just faking, so it stopped getting so excited. Just saying, is this true? Is it not true? But this is what this stuff's about here. I should consider experiments in the parapsychological type. Swann then went on to describe some apparently successful experiments in psychokinetics, that's moving things with your mind, which he had participated at Professor Gertrude Schmieler's laboratory in College City of New York. I'm almost through with this little off topic, but I think it's relevant to my point with reading the Bible and John Dee, the magician occultist with the King and Queens of England, the ones who authorized the King James Version of the Bible. It's all to connect it. So who are these people who authorize the Bible that are into this occult with angels who say you should share your wives? And why are they with that tunnel over there in Switzerland? And the Grammys and Emmys and football halftime shows and the Olympic grand openings and so much more, having these Indiana Jones satanic type rituals. Remember when they were lowering the girl down on the grate into the lava and they were doing the satanic ritual? So here's something cool to wrap our heads around. So Swann was invited to do another test with his psychokinesis, in other words, moving something at a distance. But apparently there was a magnetometer down in the basement, which was used as a quark detection device, quarks in the air, cosmos. So it was well shielded, metal, concrete, bunker, down under underneath the building. And here's Ingo Swann up here with the people. And they said, we want you to make that quantum detector needle peg. And Ingo was insulted that they asked him to do this. But anyways, he said he'll try. And as I'm reading here now, and if to add insult to injury, then he went in to remote view the interior of the apparatus, rendering by drawing a reasonable facsimile of its rather complex and heretofore unpublished construction. So all they told him is there was this magneto down there, and they wanted him to make the needle move. So he went into a relaxed mode, maybe a trance, or closed his eyes, whatever, and left his body and went down there and looked around and came back and drew a drawing of the place, besides the fact that he did make the needle peg. Anyways, the CIA was aware of this. In a few short weeks, a pair of visitors showed up at the SRI with the above report in hand. Their credentials showed them to be from the CIA. And so they were more impressed with Ingo's ability to leave his body and go look and come back and make a drawing of what he saw than his kinetic ability to move the needle. That was just a surprise discovery for them. They go, what? Wait a minute. You can leave your body, go down there, and come back here and make a drawing? So go look this document up. I'm not trying to, it's many pages here. 70 pages, I don't know, quite a few pages, so I'm only giving you a short synopsis. I do believe sincerely that I can't read everything for everybody. People have to take a little initiative. I just maybe can, with my work, help people have a shortcut. So speaking of having a shortcut and all this stuff with angels and telling people to share their wives and things there with Jesus and the Holy Ghost and all that stuff, I got a letter from Tex Mars, Power of Prophecy, recently. He sends these little, I wouldn't call it a letter, but a little pamphlet. And he has all kinds of products. This new book here, Holy Serpent of the Jews, Tex Mars. So I get this in the mail from him. I haven't gotten one from him in a while. He must have sent it to me because he's putting out the new book. So when you buy something from him, he'll put you on the mailing list for a while. And if you don't buy something again, he'll take you off, which I'm sure it's expensive for these 8 or 9 pages. So he tells all about even the Jews here. These devil men mock Jesus Christ and despise the Holy Scriptures. Tex Mars exposes their religion and worship of the evil serpent. I kid you not. $20 for the book. And of course they got all these CDs and other things you can order. So as a man with an open mind, this ancient occult seal of Solomon, remember we got this stuff going on over there in Jerusalem, killing all the Palestinians, taking all the land, using 911 to overthrow all the countries in the Middle East, overthrowing all those presidents and leaders, killing off lots of people with phosphorus dumped from the sky, machine gunning people, bombs, just on and on and on and on, in Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan and Egypt and now the Ukraine and just so much more. The ancient occult seal of Solomon depicts the holy serpent, and so they're trying to bring about this open a portal to some demonic realm that exists. And from my conversation in this video, apparently there is a realm where these cast out angels were put in. And are these Illuminati, Freemasonic, occult, Zionist, Jesuit, witchcraft, Rosicrucian, Kabbalist folks trying to open up a portal and convince the rest of us that the perverted, decadent reality is the one we should embrace? Because you can't stop love. That's what the gay agenda's saying that since that Orlando shooting. Then when will the people wake up? You can't stop love. Even though Elton John and his husband admit that they're having outside sexual relations and trying to seal the records. But anyways, here's another picture in Tex Mars' book. Depicts a holy serpent encircling a Jewish man and a 6-pointed star in as above, as below. The symbolism is everywhere, and in my future videos, we're going to go over it and over it and over it. And that's another symbol that you can see in the Rosicrucian material, that thing. See the snake? Snake's head right there. So apparently the snake eating its tail is a symbol for eternity. And here's another article in Tex Mars' little pamphlet. Armenia ravaged by communist Jews. Goes into detail, and I'm not trying to go into all that stuff. And here's some other products in this book. go on Texmar's website. And as I've learned, get a wealth of information. Alright, I'm going to end this video. One piece of news is I did go online and buy the book. And you can see I've been reading portions of it. And it's just crazy. So I found one thing I'm going to read so I can abide by the copyright laws and just do an excerpt. You're not going to believe it. Anyways, you can see I read all this. So I'll just try to do one tidbit at random here. Page 71 of the Holy Serpent of the Jews. Now remember, we got this gay agenda thing going on, and even now trying to make the society accept even pedophilia with children. I've gone over that, and I'm going to go over it more. But on page 71, starting from the top, the Talmud, the Bible for the evil Jewish folks, not the good Jewish folks who go by the Torah, which is the first part of the Bible, called the Old Testament. But the Talmud, and the Zohar, and the Kabbalah, and as we read before with John Dee, the magician to the king and queen, the angel says they should share their wives, which is against God's 10 Commandments. Number 7, do not commit adultery. But let me get to this one paragraph in Texmar's book and encourage you to go get it if you want to read some stuff that's just too bizarre to believe. Jam-packed. Be like watching 50 of my videos just reading this one book. Anyways, the Talmud is the basis for the Jews' emphasis on sexual deviance and on their craving for material gains and pleasures. See, they remember, just like John Dee said, the kings and queens and other elites would have their magicians and use the occult for financial gains and pleasures, probably perverted sexual pleasures, and probably other pleasures like putting people on a rack and torturing them, killing them, and some people get off on making other people suffer. And we're going to get into that. It's repeatedly in many documents. The Talmud, for example, permits sex between adults and children. Now, Texmar is a serious author of many books and a leader of a religious organization. So I don't think he would be, and I've gone over this stuff in my books that I've gone over. So this is what I can verify that I believe this is true from many books that I've read and have, which we will look at again. The Talmud, for example, permits sex between adults and children. The male child must be at least 9 years of age, and the female only 3. Jewish rabbis, businessmen, and high-ranking political figures in Israel are infamous for pedophilia and world sex trafficking and for sexual harassment of female employees. Meanwhile, Jews are at the forefront of the global pornographic industry. So again, so I don't get in any trouble with copyright laws, I'm not going to read any more, just tell you, this whole, let's see, how many pages? 223 pages of example and example and example and example. And I'm going to continue reading this till I read it all. But I've read so many books and made so many videos, I took them all down, 547. I didn't know if some of them might be encroaching on any kind of legal problems. So for good sense, I may as well learn the right way to do things. And just makes me think a little bit different about the Holy Bible. Although I'm going to continue to read it and go over it. I believe there's a lot of valuable information where it talks about the Holy Ghost and angels and Jesus and all that. So, thank you for watching my video. I hope it's been interesting. Rick Miracle reporting.